Everybody on the top got the same sound. Everything I'm about to drop, make a name now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Yeah, I ain't never gonna be the same now. I'ma tear up this whole fucking game now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. I got so many bars, call it kamikaze. Ain't nobody ever gonna ever stop me. And I know that I could be a little cocky. That's the byproduct of hard work, no it's not free. I'm at a top speed, I think you lost me. Do not cross me, I keep dropping all these hits and I know that they watching. They keep showing up in my place, always knocking. Knock, knock, bitch, I've been standing right here. Been over 3 years and then you just got here. Man, get me a beer and open up the mirrors. Let me show you now what you've been missing for years. Call it premiere, I can take a boy's name and smear, or take it up a gear and end your career and make you feel fear, or make you disappear. Cause I am right here and not going nowhere. Everybody on the top got the same sound. Everything I'm about to drop, make a name now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Yeah, I ain't never gonna be the same now. I'ma tear up this whole fucking game now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. And when I rap, yeah, man, I snap fast. Like your girl's back, hit a clap, clap, break it in. My bitch be my pawn when I play. You gon' be my bitch, take my palm to the face. You know I'm your biz when I'm on fucking stage. You ain't never gonna get me to be tame. I go insane, you can't detain this beat. Yo, when I came to stay, cause girl I came to play. Everybody on the top got the same sound. Everything I'm about to drop, make a name now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Yeah, I ain't never gonna be the same now. I'ma tear up this whole fucking game now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know.
There was a time when you had me falling to the ground, like a king without a crown. Whoa. Why you make it hard? Don't let me down. You might as well be lost, but I'm found. I'm waiting for your love. You just keep me hanging on, and I deserve to stay, and I'll find my way. Just know you're not alone, cause I'm your home. I wanna be with you always. Know I'm not alone, cause I'm your home. In the dark we fight, you take the wrong and you make it right. Like a firefly, you're glowing at night. So don't make it hard, don't let me go. I wanna hold you tight when you're cold. I'm waiting for your love, you just keep me hanging on. I deserve to stay, and
Hola, muy buenos días. Estamos en el octavo Gran Premio del año, el Gran Premio de Azerbaiyán. Esta carrera que se corre con esta denominación.
For Azerbaijan, the 2017 Formula One Azerbaijan Grand Prix. For the first time ever in Formula One, Azerbaijan has its name on a Grand Prix, and we have flown 5,000 545 miles from Montreal here to the shores of the Caspian Sea just to be here. It's the Baku City Circuit, round 8 of this 2017 championship, and a shade over 6 kilometres long, this street circuit with 20 corners, 12 to the left and 8 to the right, and only 280 metres from pole position to the apex of turn 1 to try and pull off something stunning into that first corner. 2 DRS zones, and unlike last year when it was the Grand Prix of Europe here, 2 DRS detection zones as well. That's the scene just behind the temporary paddock and pit lane here in Baku. It has been blue skies pretty much all weekend long. The heat has very much been turned up, as it was in qualifying yesterday, with Mercedes on the tarmac, Martin, turning up the heat on Ferrari.
Absolutely. It is so hot out there. Track 49 and falling now, of course, as we get towards the evening. It's a 5 p.m. start here, local time, and 69% humidity. I think that's why it feels extra hot and sweaty out there, Crofty, and it's going to be a long afternoon for the drivers. We've seen how easy it is for them to make one tiny error, probably more so than Monaco even, because the track's pretty slippery and dusty offline, and it just needs one little excess into the braking zone and you're in big trouble.
Here's the grid then. Lewis Hamilton is 66th pole in Formula 1, has Valtteri Bottas alongside him, a 49th front row lockout for Mercedes. Kimi Raikkonen out-qualifies Sebastian Vettel for the second time this season. Vettel's never won from below the top 3. Max Verstappen is the lead Red Bull driver. He has Sergio Perez for company. Podium from 7th here last year for Perez. Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll with their best ever career starts in Formula 1 line up alongside each other. And then comes Felipe Massa and Daniel Ricciardo, who crashed in Q3 and is only 10th. Danny Kvyat starts 11th for Toro Rosso, Kevin Magnussen alongside him for Haas, and behind them in 13th Nico Hülkenberg with his worst qualifying performance of the year, and Pascal Wehrlein getting Sauber into Q2 for the 3rd time this season. Carlos Sainz has a 3-place grid penalty after his crash in Canada and keeps Romain Grosjean company in 16th. Then comes Marcus Ericsson and Stoffel van Dorn for McLaren, 35 places on the grid for engine and gearbox penalties for him, 40 places for his teammate Fernando Alonso, and Jolyon Palmer, who had an incident when his car caught fire in practice yesterday, didn't set a time in qualifying, but the stewards have allowed him to race. But out at the front, is the race today between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, or have Ferrari got that race pace that we've seen in evidence throughout this season? That's the big question, Martin, that needs to be answered.
I think Ferrari will look closer in the race, but I can't help but feel in Canada and here again this weekend, Mercedes have taken a step forward in understanding what they'd already got and improving the car. And Ferrari, we know they've had to go back to an older engine in Seb Vettel's car as well for good measure. So they seem to have the high ground to me at the moment, Crofty. But I also expect that Red Bull, 5th and 10th on the grid, are out of position in terms of the race potential of that car.
Renault said they brought an engine upgrade here. I checked that out with Christian Horner today, and he said, no, it's not technically.
Final thing from me, Kimmy, just think about the fact the track temperature is going to drop quite a lot through the race when we talk about balance for the second stint tyres.
And changing between different areas of the track as well. A lot of this track will be in shade from some of the tall buildings around this circuit. At the moment, on the main straight, it's 51 degrees. And Christian Horner saying that what Renault have done is that they've changed some of the engine mapping, they've improved some of the engine mapping, and that is worth a tenth and a half a lap. But they've also brought very much a Monza spec downforce here for those very long straights. Super soft tyres, Martin, then, for the top 10. That's the tyre they set their fastest time on in Q2 to get through to the final part of qualifying. Only 3 have gone with a soft tyre to start.
Which is about 1.3 seconds per lap slower. So will we get the undercut when they come in around 15 to 20? Will they go faster, in other words, as soon as they bolt the soft tyres on? Or will they, in fact, go a little bit slower? And those that stay out a bit longer, as Vettel did in Monaco, will they gain an advantage? It's a very close call, that.
And the clock ticks around to 5 o'clock then, and we're off for the formation lap here. 3.7 miles before the cars line up on the grid once again. Soft tyres on the car for Grosjean, for Ericsson and Van Dorn, which I assume then is 3 drivers gambling on an early safety car. That every driver has to run at some stage the slower soft compound tyre in this race. But if there is a safety car, and you've gone with a soft early, then you might be able to make up significant places here.
Could do good luck into that, and a safety car here is not out of the question. We've seen in the F2 races the track actually completely blocked in that very narrow 7.9 metre wide turn 8, and if you think about, for example, the Malaysian Grand Prix circuit, it's 22 metres wide in certain places, and in fact this track's pretty wide in certain places too down the pit straight.
Yeah, it's very much a Gemini track, isn't it? A track of two faces, really. Some parts very narrow, some parts exceptionally wide. And the Drivers' Championship, 12 points between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas, Kimi Raikkonen and Daniel Ricciardo completing the top 5 points all the way down to Lance Stroll. This only 7 metres wide, turn 7 by the maiden tower. And that's where it can get very much blocked if someone comes a cropper, and already we've seen drivers hitting the wall on the inside of that right-hand turn. We're on board with Max Verstappen. I talked about the shadows, Martin. The sunlight kind of streams through and you go from dark to light within the space of a few metres in certain parts.
I hated it. For example, in Melbourne, you do out of turn 5 and 6, there's always a canopy of trees there, and it does affect your reference points. Little dark patches of tarmac or a line or a bump or something. You've got the curbs as well. You've got your brake marker boards up a little bit higher, of course. You don't always want to look up there. And so your reference points are moving around. And on a track where braking is critical and somewhat difficult from what we've seen, Crofty, then that can be a challenge.
There's your tyre strategies. You pit round about lap 24 to put the soft compound tyres on if you've got the track position, if you've got a gap to come back out into. A two-stop strategy, looking at lap 16 and lap 33, but those that we've spoken to today not feeling that a two-stop strategy under normal conditions is the fastest way to complete the race distance. And all of the drivers out there, Martin, desperately trying to get some heat into those tyres.
Very slow formation lap from Lewis. It's his prerogative. As long as he doesn't accelerate, brake, and keep concertinaing the pack, it's his prerogative as to how quickly he wants to go around. Then he wants them all backed up before he parks on the grid.
He doesn't want to be sat there for any longer than he has to on pole position. On his outlap from the garage to the grid, we've actually seen him lock up a little bit and go straight on at turn 2. And we've seen a lot of drivers do that because they've applied the brakes this weekend and the grip and the bite just hasn't been there. In the covered grandstands, the crowd all standing now as the cars make their way onto the grid. Our commentary box just on the left-hand side there. We've got a perfect view on the grid here. Everyone seems to be in place at the moment, Martin.
From what I can see out of the commentary box window here, yep, they're all on their yellow lines. And I can only see half the grid. There's the president of Azerbaijan looking out.
Getting a very good view at the start of this race. Already someone's brakes smoking away on the grid from the midfield. But it's lights out and away we go. Valtteri Bottas pointing towards Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton gets away well though and cuts Bottas off down the inside. Goes Sebastian Vettel, tries to get the car under control and loses out to Kimi Raikkonen, so stays in fourth in the Toro Rosso. Going wide there, and that is Carlos Sainz from 14th on the grid. And contact there. Kimi Raikkonen has had contact with one of the Red Bulls, I think it is.
I thought it was a Mercedes.
Well, if it was a Mercedes, it is Valtteri Bottas. You're right. Valtteri Bottas having a poor start there as I was looking for Carlos Sainz. Another one with a poor start. Down the inside goes Daniel Ricciardo on Lance Stroll, but he doesn't quite make the move stick. And it's Hamilton out in front here in Baku. But his teammate Valtteri Bottas in trouble, and they're all squirming around looking for grip. And this is the problem Valtteri Bottas has got with his front right tyre.
A long way to go from there as well to the end of the lap. Second longest circuit in the championship on the calendar. 6 kilometres long. Spa is the only longer one at 7 kilometres. He's got a long way to bring that car back to the pits.
Daniel Ricciardo in trouble as well. We saw him dueling away with Lance Stroll, but he has now lost positions as well and has very much come out on the wrong end of that. The double yellow flags being waved as down at turn 2 as Sergio Perez goes up in a third place. This is what happened to Carlos Sainz. Now I think he tangled here with his teammate Danny Kvyat. There goes Kvyat running wide, and as he comes back onto the track, that's just enough to put Sainz off.
Yeah, I think Sainz was wrong-footed by that, but as he lit it up with torque.
Yeah, Danny came back like a madman through the track.
He just spun up the rear wheels and around it went. Here we go then, the two Finnish drivers. And that's a heavy contact on the Ferrari as well, which I think then went off to hit the wall for good measure. And
well, Sebastian Vettel making up a couple of places there as Bottas and Raikkonen tangled, not for the first time this season. Here comes the Red Bull.
Ricardo's ninth. I think he just dropped off the computer somewhere, Crofty. He was showing last, wasn't he? But we could certainly see him out on track.
I say 1 minute, we saw him on track trying to get past Lance Stroll. He's still trying to get past Lance Stroll. The next minute, you're right, he was right at the bottom of the computer standings. But Hamilton from Vettel, Perez from Verstappen and Raikkonen the top 5. Let's go down to Franz Tost as Stroll locks up on the Toro Rosso pit wall. Disastrous start for your team, I'm afraid there, Franz.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At first Daniel got the start not as well, and then he came back to the track, and Carlos wanted to prevent any collision, and therefore he spun. I think that we will call him in because I expect that he has a flat spot on the front tires and not to damage anything on the car, but we will see what the next laps will show us.
We see a bit of carbon fibre coming off the bodywork there and hitting the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen as he goes through turn 7. Do you see it as a racing incident, the situation between Danny and Carlos, or do you actually take Carlos's side and think that Danny should have given him more room?
No, it's a racing incident. You know, these are tens of seconds where the driver have to decide, and it was a racing incident, nothing more, nothing less.
So will you bring, you said you're going to bring Carlos in for a flat spot. I'm not sure he'll have a flat spot, to be honest, because of the way the car spun, but you might as well try something different on the strategy now.
We will see, we will see. We have to look for the next laps and then we decide what we do. Yeah, because I think there's also maybe the front wing a little bit damaged. We have to wait, we have to look to the data and then we decide what we do.
Thanks ever so much, Franz. As you can see on your screen, Valtteri Bottas into the pits. And a lengthy examination of his car. They changed the front wing and they put on the soft compound tyre as well. And they might even have had to have waited there for the medical car to come into the pits before he could get out again.
I think I have damage from debris.
We think maybe you had debris in your rad duct. We're monitoring it, Max.
And we certainly saw bits of carbon fibre flying about there. Valtteri Bottas then back onto the track, and you can see the Haas of Kevin Magnussen alongside him. So that's down in about 11th place.
He's going to have to, he's being lapped by all of these cars, so he'll have to respect the blue flags and get out of the way for just to give him a bit of extra pain, Valtteri Bottas, and fall to the back of the pack. And, well, he's having a nightmare of a start to this Grand Prix, isn't he? So close to the wall again there. And, as I say, they're all lapping him.
So we're on lap 3 of this race. Valtteri Bottas and Danny Kvyat. And the stewards noting an incident between Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas, and looking at that a little bit more closely, and also noting the incident between Danny Kvyat and Carlos Sainz as well, which Franz Tost says is very much a racing incident.
Yeah, my rear definitely doesn't feel very good. Don't know what has happened there, but something has straight after the hit I just lost it.
Out in front, though, Lewis Hamilton, 2.2 seconds clear of Sebastian Vettel. Sergio Perez on the podium here last year runs in 3rd place from Max Verstappen and Kimi Raikkonen, Felipe Massa and Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg. Verstappen's just set the fastest lap of the race.
That's good news for this race. Now it's all settling down. Vettel matched Hamilton and Verstappen in 4th, quicker than the 3 in front of him. 4 seconds covers the top 4.
Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg's got DRS assistance. And there we go to the 2 McLarens and the 2 Saubers. We have got Ericsson ahead of Wehrlein. Van Dorn down the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. Nice move from Stoffel Van Dorn. Fernando Alonso's waiting there as well. Switches to try down the inside. Under braking. There goes Fernando Alonso and almost touches. And if he does touch, it's a very slight one with the Sauber. And last year's Ferrari engine, this year's Honda engine, in a straight drag race down towards turn 3. Who's going to come out on top? Fernando Alonso is, and goes up into 15th place.
Remember, Eric Bouillet told us in the pre-show that they've taken some wing off the McLaren to try and make it a little bit faster down the straight. We saw the acceleration, the 2016 engined Sauber.
Okay, Valtteri.
Hey, Fermi, stop for a nose change.
And you could see the Sauber just out-accelerating the McLaren. Then the McLaren came back, it must be said, when, of course, they've got their batteries to play with as well in those situations. That's worth 160 horsepower.
So there goes Sebastian Vettel down the inside on Kimi Räikkönen, gets a little bit squeezed. You can see Kvyat going wide, and Carlos Sainz now getting ever closer to his teammates. He had to give him a bit more space, and the chasing pack lucky there not to collect Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, Carlos a bit frustrated with his teammate coming back on, and then in a big attempt to make sure he was ahead of him, got dialed in a touch too much throttle because they weren't going to contact, but and did he tag the wall with the left front wing there? And Vettel got so close to running into the back of his teammate before Valtteri Bottas finally achieved it.
Just looking there, I think Kvyat got caught out by Lance Stroll braking a bit early as well, and that's what forced him to go wide. That's the incident between Bottas and Räikkönen.
It cannot be again the same guy hitting me. I don't know if I have a punch or...
Okay, I'm watching the pressures. Everything looks fine so far.
That's great car control from Sebastian Vettel. That really is.
The Ferraris nearly didn't make it to turn 2.
No.
That was...
I'll tell you what happened with Bottas. He clipped the curb, didn't he?
He did.
And that shunted him right.
Yeah.
And he had no chance of avoiding Räikkönen.
Let's see if Kimi's got... I think Kimi left him enough space, and, you can't vanish. It just about left him enough space. And as you say, a little hop across the curb, and the inevitable.
And damage to Kimi Räikkönen's Ferrari as well, but very much the Mercedes coming off worse in that particular tangle. Now, I note that Romain Grosjean has also been into the pits and back out again on the super soft tyre. He started on the soft compound tyre in this race. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so Grosjean, Crofty, it looks like trying what he did in Canada, which was do more or less the whole race on one set of tyres. So he might go with his super soft tyre to the end. I'll be impressed if he can make it last. Kimi Räikkönen still complaining about the rear of the car, understandably. The hit on that right rear.
I have no battery.
Okay, stand by.
No battery for Marcus Ericsson, losing energy recovery system deployment down the long straights. Ted, back to you.
Yeah, so it looks like the tracking might be out on that right rear. Very little they can do on that in the pit stop. They're not bringing him at the moment, though.
Thank you, Ted. Gap out in front was 2.6 seconds, now 3.2 seconds between the man second in the championship and the man leading the championship. Sergio Perez keeping pace with Sebastian Vettel, only 1.9 seconds behind him. We look a little bit further back. Nico Hülkenberg under pressure here and slicing his way through the field. Car number 77, Valtteri Bottas, but he is a lap down, of course. Into the pits now comes Daniel Ricciardo.
Seemed a long, very long stop. Were they changing the nose? Didn't seem enough time to be changing the nose. But they've got to do something for Ricciardo. He's going around in 1 minute 49s behind Lance Stroll. And the leaders are in the 46s and 47s. He was tucked up there and clearly couldn't overtake.
Jolyon Palmer in a bit of a duel with Pascal Wehrlein. Palmer has got himself up into 16th place, or 15th place, I should say, after Ricciardo's pit stop. Why would they bring it? They bring Daniel Ricciardo in. They put the soft tyre on, sent him back out into the racetrack again to try and go to the end.
They might do. Van Dorn, they've done the same thing with the McLaren as well. That's why he's dropped out of this particular fight. We saw him in the background, didn't we, in Ricciardo's pit stop. So it's a long way to go if that's the target.
Well, Van Dorn started on the soft tyre, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he's gone onto the super soft to give him a little bit more pace.
Yeah, super soft all the way to the end. I don't think so. 20, 25 laps, they reckon, don't they, for the supers? But we've heard that before.
Yeah, 51 laps in total at a maximum of 30 laps. Pirelli reckon on that one. The safety car could change things around a little bit, and when you're running that far down, maybe it is worth the gamble. No investigation necessary between Kvyat and Sainz, say the stewards.
Yeah, I agree with that. There wasn't contact, nobody. It was just unfortunate, really. A little bit clumsy and unfortunate.
Where are the close gaps then? The close battles, I should say, since the cars are getting strung out just a little bit at the moment. Alonso and Sainz, and we're on board with Fernando Alonso now. Down in 13th place, Carlos Sainz right behind him. There you can see the Sauber just ahead of these two as well. Two Spaniards resuming action, and we've seen a fair few incidents between those two in the past as well. And Marcus Ericsson watching his mirrors.
Okay, Marcus, keep pushing, keep pushing. How are the tires? How are the tires?
Tires are good, but I have no shock. They're coming everywhere.
I know, it will take few laps to come up. It will take few laps to come up.
Alonso has a little look there, doesn't he, going into turn 3 at the end of that DRS zone. Maybe attack is the best form of defence in terms of Fernando Alonso at this moment in time. And just confirmation, Kimi Raikkonen, Valtteri Bottas, that accident at turn 2 on the opening lap, under investigation from the stewards.
Maybe they were trying to clear, they were talking about debris. That was in Verstappen's sidepod though, wasn't it? Not Ricciardo. What's going on the front?
They just look, they're just checking
yeah,
to see if anything's got stuck in the elements on that front wing. No further action. Bottas and Raikkonen just flashed up on our screen.
Vettel was on a quick lap, on a very quick lap. He's 3/10 up on Hamilton. He decided it's time to push.
Okay, Dale, brakes are now fine, everything is okay. We had some debris in the brake scoop and everything got very hot very quickly. So now debris is clear, you are free to race, let's go.
Well, that explains his pace.
Understood.
That explains his pace, Martin.
Let's get stuck into it now, mate.
He's got a lot to make up from where he is now, though. Down 17th place, Daniel Ricciardo.
But interestingly, despite Vettel doing purple sectors, first and second sector of the lap, Hamilton was 3/10 quicker in the final part of the lap and actually pulled away a 10.
On board with car number 3, Daniel Ricciardo, and he is gaining on Pascal Wehrlein ahead of him. This has been the fastest car this weekend as the Red Bull in a straight line. The Red Bull trimming the downforce and going for all-out speed down the straights. That was fairly easy for the Australian. Moves up a place, but only into 15th. He's got, as I say, a very long way to go. So Bottas losing 18 places at the start.
Bit of smoke out the back.
It's the first time this season that Valtteri Bottas has lost places on lap 1 as well. Sebastian Vettel gaining 2 places. Sergio Perez gaining 3 places. Max Verstappen up 1 as well. Who's that? Jolyon Palmer. Now, Jolyon Palmer complained of vibrations out of the slower speed corners on his outlap to the grid, and I wonder, Martin, after they changed his engine overnight, do we have more problems for the unfortunate British driver?
Switch off, please. Switch off and coast into the entry. Careful, the brake pedal might be long.
Yeah, he just reported, hadn't he, bit of smoke out the back. That finishes a totally dismal weekend for Jolyon Palmer. Lots of car issues. Hülkenberg up in P9 though, in the other one, so he's made some ground up from his grid slot.
Ted, you might be able to see Jolyon Palmer crawling.
Well, yeah, and if any of the top teams want to make a pit stop at the moment, they won't be able to because Palmer's blocking the way. He's got some marshals now to push him down to the garage. No Renault marshals, no Renault mechanics anywhere in sight to actually come and get him. So the marshal's going to push him back. That's good. We've got an answer as to the Ricciardo stop, Crofty. He had debris in his brake ducts, and the brake temperatures were going through the roof. So they cleared them out, and they're back to normal.
On board once again with Fernando Alonso. Marcus Ericsson ahead of him. But for how much longer?
Sainz presumably is right in his mirrors then.
He certainly is.
I have expected him to sail past Carlos Sainz down the straight. On the previous lap, that is.
Well, they're both getting DRS. There goes Fernando Alonso now. He's going to try going around the outside here, and does very easily on Marcus Ericsson. So Alonso's getting stuck in this afternoon, and Carlos Sainz is going to have to wait a little bit longer. Should give Alonso a nice little cushion between himself and his fellow Spaniard here.
I think Ericsson's waiting for his battery to come back into full life. So it's the equivalent of 160 horsepower that'll get a small family car along the road at plenty good enough pace, and that's just the extra from the batteries.
So here's the problem that Carlos Sainz has got, Martin. Where's the gap to try and force his way past Marcus Ericsson in the next mile or so?
I thought he'd scream past him down the straight, frankly, but he hasn't.
And right on the tail of this, Daniel Ricciardo as well. You can see the Red Bull trying to push the junior Red Bull along a bit faster.
And this is where Ricciardo's sensors will go into hyper mode.
I ask you one thing, Gary. If the car becomes dangerous because of the brake, you stop me. It's just going now. Okay, understood.
Romain Grosjean, just asking there, is race engineer Gary just to give him Gary Gannon, to give him a bit of help, because I don't think he trusts the brakes, and I don't think anyone at Haas really trusts what's going on with the brakes at the moment. You said on the grid walk, Martin, inconsistencies all weekend long.
Yeah, and we were talking, weren't we, this morning to the team, and they just couldn't. They put a set of brakes on. They don't know what they're going to get. Some are great, some are not.
Now, there goes Carlos Sainz on the Sauber. There goes Daniel Ricciardo on Carlos Sainz and the Sauber. So Marcus Ericsson goes down into 15th. Carlos Sainz now 14th. And Daniel Ricciardo's cleared 2 cars in the process of about 100 metres.
Yeah, I started to say before we got the radio call that Ricciardo is in dangerous territory. He's recovering in a much faster car. And he's coming up against 3 other cars who are squabbling. And their focus tends to be on each other. It's cost many a Grand Prix result, that has.
We may have a blocked front right brake duct.
So that there's debris maybe from previous accidents, as we see Jolyon Palmer retiring for the 3rd time this season. We've also seen, Martin, things like carrier bags get in the way. Romain Grosjean last year had one in his radiators, didn't he, which halted his progress for a while. And oh dear, there is Danny Kvyat, stopped by the side of the track. Now, this is the sort of incident that might bring out a red flag, a yellow, double wave yellows, or a safety car on board once again with the Red Bull, this time of Max Verstappen. And Verstappen in a good old scrap here with Sergio Perez. This is for the 3rd place at the moment. Perez keeping ahead of Verstappen, but he really is in a great little tussle here. And once again, Verstappen should have a bit of DRS. He does have DRS assistance. There's no way down the inside. Perez has got that covered off. Nice bit of blocking there from the Mexican. But once again, Verstappen is coming back at him.
But their pace is pretty good, as long as they don't start squabbling too hard and too long.
He almost thought for a minute he got such a good exit out of the right-hander, there was a chance. Perez soon put a stop to that. And they should be coming soon to where Danny Kvyat's car has stopped, unless the marshals have managed to push that away very quickly.
Yeah, that'd be a difficult car to get out of the way, but maybe it was near an access in the wall, because...
Yeah, look, we're coming up to it now. We can see the yellow flags being waved. There it is.
That'll need a virtual safety car. It's not really, I don't think it's in harm's way, personally, but he is.
Just on the exit of turn 12. Ted, down to you.
We're starting to get some itchy fingers on the pit wall from the engineers as to whether they press the radio saying box, box. Ferrari, if they could anticipate maybe a safety car or a virtual safety car, it might not be a bad idea for Vettel to come in and try the undercut.
Hang on, Ted.
Oh, no, issue.
Oh, no.
With the engine.
Yeah, you can see Perez streaking away. Verstappen has a loss of power, not totally, but something has gone wrong, and he is being passed by the other Force India now. Kimi Raikkonen's got past him, Massa and Esteban Ocon as well, and oh, not again for Max Verstappen, who's just having such dismal luck when it comes to mechanical reliability this season.
Switched yourself off, didn't it, in Canada when he was flying along?
Yeah, here we go again.
Exactly.
Had problems with hydraulics, with engine mapping as well, which caused him to stop in practice on Friday. Max Verstappen, and is this terminal for him? Well, I think she might be the only person wearing a Red Bull shirt smiling in Baku at this moment in time.
Brake failure, which track was that at?
So Max Verstappen this year, we had Bahrain, we had the brake failure.
Yep, turn 4.
Taken out by Kimi Raikkonen in Spain. Had the issue with the battery in Canada. This is a 4th DNF that could be looming for him. And look, who's he got behind him now? Valtteri Bottas, who is a lap down and will any moment now unlap himself from behind Max Verstappen. But not just at this moment. On the exit of this, turn 12, still got Danny Kvyat's car stranded there. What are they going to do about safety car? That's what they're going to do about it. The safety car is coming out, and that might just now see a lot of activity in the pit lane as well.
Yeah, you'd really struggle to hit that car. You'd have to do something very silly indeed, but they don't leave cars out on track. It's not in the firing line at all.
Now, Mercedes-Benz have got their pit crew in the pit lane. But Lewis Hamilton, I think, is coming in.
They're going to have to, well, they don't have to stack the Mercedes because Bottas is out of the picture.
Right, so there goes Hamilton.
Will they stack?
Also coming in, Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton in and out with a 3-second stationary stop.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it, to stop now.
They're all filing in, Perez and Raikkonen as well.
So will Ocon have to wait behind this car? No, is the answer to that.
There's just enough gap. But what's Kimi Raikkonen just waiting there for a bit longer, I think, than he would have wanted. The Force India crew getting to work. Has Ocon lost a place here to Felipe Massa?
They didn't
possibly.
pit Stroll. They didn't pit Lance Stroll.
No, Stroll has stayed out. So it's going on down here. They're just looking at Max Verstappen's car as to whether they can change the steering wheel, maybe, Martin?
Nah, it's got a bag of bits in the back, hasn't it? I think it sounded awful.
Just stand by for the minute. Stand by for the minute, Max. Stand by for the minute.
So they've got another steering wheel there just to see if that would reset things.
But we saw the puff of blue smoke coming out of